I want to do my best to try to answer a question that I think we all have asked at some point in our life. As humans, as being alive, we can be in this beautiful world with the sun and the trees and the forests and the ocean and the birds and everybody that loves us and the love that they give us. And we can stand in that wondrous beauty of creation. We can stand in those miracles. And yet, it's very difficult to stand in a world and focus on love, focus on beauty, focus on the miracles when we can see badness around us, we can see suffering around us. And how can we focus on the goodness and the love of the world when we watch very bad people do very bad things? That's difficult, and I think that's a question that we all should ask. How can we believe in the higher powers? How can we believe in the high ideals of love and graciousness when there are people in this world who do horrible things? I think that's a valid question for all of us to ask, and I think that we should do our best to try to answer it. So I tried to answer that question. As a medium, I am in contact with some incredible spirits. Maybe we all are. Maybe we aren't. But I had that question. I sought the answer out. The reason that I sought this answer out was because, we sit in this world of awful things being done by people like Vladimir Putin. And yet we also sit in this world where awful things are done by people on a small scale. So here's a story. I have a friend. I've known him most of his life. He recently got out of a 2-year relationship. He was in this relationship and he came to me for advice, and he's like, hey, every time I go to see my girlfriend, she pulls my phone out of my hand and she spends a half hour searching through it. I feel like I'm being parented. And so I had to take that opportunity to say, hey, if that was a guy doing that to a girl, it would be very easily seen as abuse, as oppressive, controlling, narcissistic behavior. So I said, just keep that in mind and just do what you think somebody else should do in that, in that position. About a week or two later, he broke up with her. Said it was done, said he'd had enough of that behavior. He was all set. And the following day, he finds out that his girlfriend of 2 years has been messing around with his best friend. So the day after he broke up with her, he found out, and they rubbed it in his face. It was a pretty awful scenario. And I sit in that situation and I'm like, wow, his girlfriend, she didn't really seem like a horrible person, but yet anybody can be capable of awful things. And why would somebody that was seemingly good, seemingly an okay person, do something like that? And how can we live with it and look at it in the face? So I asked the question. I asked the question to the greater spirits. How can we believe in you, in the miracles that you provide, and the graciousness and the love that you provide this world? And how can we sit in the face of awful people? How can a guy like Vladimir Putin do what he does? Something that a lot of people don't know about him. As soon as he came into power, I think in the 90s, he pushed a button and killed 36,000 people. As soon as he came into power, cleaned a whole town right out. So I asked this question, sort of like in a prayer, and ask, why? How? Can I get an explanation? And the explanation that I get is that he is trapped in his story. And this is fascinating to me, and this really speaks to the power of human belief. This person, Vladimir Putin, is in power, and he's trapped in his own story and his own convictions and the power of his own beliefs. And that really speaks to the power of human belief. And it's fascinating to me to think that there are these incredible powers that have an impact and an influence on our universe, and yet a guy like Vladimir Putin can do what he does. This is also this has something to do with free will too, because people have the ability to believe what they want and to act on those beliefs how they want. That is the power of belief. And yet it can hurt a lot of people. So this girlfriend of my friend's, right? I'm probably not that bad of a person except for the cheating thing, right? So how can this person justify her behavior? Well, she was trapped in her own story. Just like Vladimir Putin was trapped in his own story, that he was justified in his actions, and that he, the ends justified the means. He's after an end goal. This person who cheated on my friend was doing so and justifying her behavior because she was trapped in her own story. She was trapped in her own beliefs, and she thought it was okay. She thought that whatever had happened to her along the way made it okay for her to do that behavior that she really wouldn't want to have done to herself. Now, that's an easy explanation, right? That's an easy explanation. People trapped in the power of their own beliefs and their own convictions. All right, so we watch out for that shit. We don't let other people's beliefs and the power of their convictions impact our life as much as we can. As much as we can. For instance, if I did that, if I let the power of somebody else's beliefs control my life, I would still be in the closet. If I believed that being gay was bad or wrong, I'd still be in the closet. So I'm not going to let somebody else's beliefs affect my own, and I'm going to be really careful about not being trapped by my own beliefs and convictions. And I think that's the lesson here, right? That we can all have great intentions, and every villain ends up being the hero in their own story. So this is important. How can you not be trapped in your own stories? And with that, understand how sometimes really bad things are going to happen to really bad people because people were trapped in those stories.